We're gonna go ahead and get started. So to everybody who has joined in on our virtual chat tonight, we want to say welcome. We are so happy to have you here. My name is Joy Royston. I am the program director for Trey Athletes. We also have here Brian Reynolds, who's one of the co-founders of Trey. And you are looking at these two lovely people, Miss Sandra Brunson, who is the mother of Jalen Brunson, and they're going to be joining us tonight to talk about Jalen's journey, his life so far, and Mrs. Brunson is going to be talking about the wonderful parenting she's been doing to raise such a amazing young man. I'll be taking notes on that because I have a 6-year-old and I need some tips. So, to those of you who have joined, just to give a little background, Trey is a Dallas-based nonprofit. We are focused on helping athletes to be leaders, role models, and also have influential voices in their communities. Our leadership development program serves high school basketball players and their families from over 40 zip codes in the Dallas area. We have athletes who are currently headed to play basketball at colleges across the country, and we work every day to help them to be leaders on and off the court. So that's a little bit about Trey. I'm going to give you a rundown of how tonight's call is going to go. We are going to start with first a chat between Jalen and his mom, moderated by Brian. Following that, we are going to be having audience question and answer portion. Those of you who are currently attendees, you may submit questions using the chat feature and the Q&A feature. We'll be monitoring those questions throughout the conversation they're having, and at the end, we will allow those questions to be answered, and you may have the opportunity to come on screen and actually to ask your question live here with Jalen. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and start this question and answer, or not question and answer, but the chat rather, with Mrs. Brunson and Jalen. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Brian.
Thanks, LaJoy.
You're welcome.
As LaJoy mentioned, I'm Brian Reynolds, co-founder at Trey Athletes, and we're thrilled to have Jalen and Sandra joining us for tonight's Trey Q&A. Because our Trey athletes are currently sophomores or juniors in high school deciding where to go to college, or preparing to leave high school as a senior for college, that's where we'll focus the majority of our conversation tonight. Additionally, for social media sharing, we hope you'll post on social media tonight and tag @TreyAthletes and @JalenBrunson1. And prior to starting our Q&A, as LaJoy mentioned, just a reminder, any questions you might have at home, submit your questions in real time through the chat function, and you can upvote the questions you like the most. As noted, joining us today, Jalen Brunson and his mom, Sandra. Thank you so much for being here with us. And after graduating in 3 years from Villanova, Jalen is currently in his 2nd year as a point guard with our hometown Dallas Mavericks. And as you'll see through our conversation tonight, Jalen is the definition of a Trey athlete. He's got it all. He's a competitor on the court and in the classroom. He's a leader in his community, and he's an example to all of our Trey athletes out there watching with their families in quarantine. So we're going to start off with some easy questions, taking both of you way back to Lincolnshire, Illinois, where Jalen went to high school. First question is for Jalen. A few years ago, we launched our Trey Athletes pilot program in the south side of Chicago. You and your family eventually settled just north of Chicago in Lincolnshire after 7 family moves spanning New Jersey to Illinois. You proceeded to win a state championship. You were named Mr. Basketball for Illinois and a McDonald's All-American. Can you tell us a little bit about your high school and your club basketball career?
Well, high school career was definitely memorable. I want to say that it was probably one of the most fun times I've ever had, because you're with a group of people that like you kind of grew up with, and so going to a public school with about 4,500 kids, it was a huge school, but like to have those moments with those probably 25 total teammates I've had throughout my career, like those were the best moments ever. And just because those were my best friends, and we grew up, and like there's so many things that we did together, and those moments are great. But like on the court stuff, it was very, very difficult because of how hard, how much I expected out of myself, and how hard my dad pushed me, how hard school was, because the school at the time was the #2 public school academically in the country. So it was hard for me. And so it was definitely don't tell Villanova this, but Villanova was not as hard as high school. But it was definitely an experience. But going through just like losing 2 times in a row in the state finals and finally winning my senior year, those relationships I built through that time were great. And then just club basketball wise, it was a roller coaster because the organized basketball wasn't so organized sometimes. So it was definitely a lot of BS that was definitely a part of it. But I wouldn't trade any of my experiences for the world because they made me who I am today.
That's awesome, Joe. Speaking of who you are today, I know that just last summer in July of 2019, you actually hosted your 2nd annual Jalen Brunson Skills Academy back at Stevenson High School. What was it like going home and being able to put together that camp for boys and girls that come from right where you grew up?
It was amazing. I saw a lot of old faces. I saw a couple of middle school teachers, high school teachers, and their children. So it was great to be able to give back. But I think the best part about that camp was all the proceeds that we got from the week that we did it, the 2 sessions that we did. Me and my mom helped put together money for 2 senior athletes that are going to college. One boy and 1 girl, senior athlete. And we decided to split those earnings from the camp and give them to those 2 for scholarship funds to help them in college. So I think that's the best part about the camp is what I'm doing to help others. And it really does, deep down, it makes me feel better about myself.
That's amazing. Well, we're going to switch gears to Sandra for just a second. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
My mom's out there watching right now. I love you, Mom. And from everything I've read, Jalen loves you and admires you deeply. I was reading his Instagram post from your birthday just this past year where he said, happy birthday to the woman that I owe everything to. The amount of love, support, and sacrifice I've seen you empty into our family will never go unnoticed. I love you more than you will ever imagine. Thank you for being my best friend. Happy 21st, Mom. As a former athlete, obviously you played volleyball at Temple. What was it of you as a mom and as an athlete?
Can you hear me? I just want to make sure. Can you hear me okay? Okay, because I didn't hear the last part of the question. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I apologize.
I was just saying, what was it like for you as a high-level athlete and as a mom to watch Jalen grow throughout the end of his high school career as both a player as well as a person?
To be honest with you, it was challenging because, I mean, although I wasn't, I played college volleyball, I had to remind myself that times were different. That the stressors that are on the current student athletes were way different than when I was in high school. And to be honest with you, a scholarship kind of sort of like fell into my lap. And it was like, yeah, I like playing. Oh, I can go for free or something of that nature. I was like, sure, I'll do it. I mean, my parents didn't even know I don't think my parents could even repeat my college coach's name. I don't think they even knew that. So what I noticed that, especially in Jalen's freshman year in high school, I was very regimented. I was just like, Jalen, you have to have this done by a certain time. You have to, get your homework done, get this done, do that. And I remembered that in high school, I would come home from practice and like pass out first or eat dinner or do stuff and then have like my jersey on or whatever it was and do homework at 11 o'clock at night, and I was just like, wait a minute, I kind of have to let him be and figure it out and not hold him to a standard that, a typical or average student is, because when you're a high school athlete, there's nothing average about your day. And so once I and Jalen will probably be the first to tell you, he took some classes that he probably shouldn't have taken. I've never heard some AP classes that I was just like, who does that? He learned to, spread it out throughout his college, high school career. But I think after I was able to get into a groove with him and see how high school sports is kind of like a profession now. They have training table, dinners, and this and that every week, and film session. We didn't have that back in my day, so it changed completely. I learned to kind of step back. Rick, his dad, handled the day-to-day athletic stuff, and I was just pretty much in charge of the social and academic events.
Divide and conquer. I like it. I think what's really incredible too is kind of transitioning to the end of your time in high school, Jalen. At Trey, we talk with our athletes a lot about how crucial your college decision is to your development, both as a person and as a player. And from what we know, your decision came down to Illinois and Villanova. Can you tell us about your college recruiting process and what was important to you in a school as well as a basketball program?
Well, the college recruiting process definitely was something interesting. It was a lot to handle. At times I hated it, but it was definitely a blessing. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously I was glad to be put in that position, but the calls and the texting and all that, like sometimes it just got really annoying where I just wanted to be a kid and like wanted to just hang out with my friends or play video games or just, I don't know, just watch TV or do whatever. And but being able to be contacted by all these coaches and seeing their interest in me showed me that I had something special going. And so the decision to come down to Illinois and Villanova, for the longest time, I knew I had the feeling I was going to Villanova. I had the deep down, I just knew that's where I wanted to be. I visited one time and it was for like less than a couple hours, but it was close to where I was born. Most of my family lives out east anyway, in New Jersey, New York. And so being back there would have been great. But the decision that came down to Villanova was because of the family atmosphere that they had, not just with the team, but the entire Villanova community. It was just, I talk to one professor every now and then. I have people in the athletic department who are even really deeply involved with basketball. They're involved with everyone that I talk to. Obviously, I still talk to the coaches and everything like that. But I wanted something not just what me and my parents said, or my parents and I. We said not just for 4 years, but for 40 years. What is Villanova going to bring me after basketball? Because basketball is going to end at some point. And so I got a lifelong connection with the Villanova community that I know that is never going to be wasted. Being in that community is definitely going to bring a lot of opportunities after basketball. So I knew Villanova was a great basketball program. I knew the coach was going to be stable there because he's done so much for that university, and he's changed so many young men's lives. And so being put into that brotherhood and to be a part of that, it was a no-brainer for me.
That's amazing. And Sandra, Jalen just said one of the things that we try to reiterate to all of our Trey athletes on a regular basis, which is at some point the ball's going to stop bouncing. Whether that's at the end of high school or at the end of college or at the end of a long, successful pro career, all of which we know and hope Jalen is going to have. But what was your role like as a mom throughout that college recruiting and college decision process?
To be as supportive as I could for him and to keep his focus on what his goals were and his dreams. I learned early on, post-college, after being an athlete in school and watching Rick play at school and become a professional athlete as well, I just learned that the college sports, college programs is such, there's more to it than just basketball. And even more so now, or should I say whatever sport that you decide to play, but more specifically basketball. But it seems as though when Jalen finally made a decision to go to Villanova. And in my heart, I thought I wanted him to go there, and I thought he would go there because it was similar to his high school environment, and I wanted him to be in an environment that was going to support his overall goals. And so as we went through the college recruitment process, he was touted by a lot of schools, and trust me, some of them were very tempting to go and visit. But at the end of the day, we knew that this was serious business, and that we didn't have a lot of time to just, we didn't need to go around visiting places just because that he needed to focus. And we sat down with him, like maybe within the last 2 months, Jay, like 2-3 months before you made your decision. And his father was just like, give me the pros and the cons of why you want to go to that school. Let's bring every day. And don't tell us what we want to hear, or don't what you see on TV. What do you want out of things? And we would hold him to that task. We would challenge him to give us his true feelings or an assessment of the universities. And I think by allowing him to verbalize it and discuss it with us night in and night out, he actually became more aware of how he fit into various schools. So, like I said, while I knew where I wanted him to go, I had to sit back and watch the process and cross my fingers. And when you go on a campus, I told him, when you go on the campus, you're going to know. You're going to know that you want to be there, or next spot, you'll have a gut feeling. And I think that happened to him when he went to Villanova.
That's awesome. Okay, so Jalen, now your mom and your dad have kind of put you through the ringer and forced you to make this 40-year decision in a pretty rigorous format. You're getting ready to head off to school. Talk to us, and specifically talk to our seniors who are getting ready to go off to college themselves, what that transition process was like for you going from high school to college.
From going to high school to college, it was tough. Actually, before, my mom made me think of this. Going into Villanova, not only did I know it was a good program, but I knew like what position I would be in as a player on the team. I knew who was possibly coming in after me. I knew who was going to be there, and I kind of took that into account. And I didn't want to just be there and just for that. Okay, this 1 year is going to be good for me, but I had no idea how I was going to look down the road. So I really wanted to make sure that everything wasn't not catered for me, but I wanted to know like what I was getting myself into. I wasn't going to say, oh, I'm going to do this and then just wing it from that point on. Like I wanted to know like where I was getting myself into. But that's that. From going from high school to college, it was difficult. It's not easy. Like your freshman year of college is going to be difficult in some way, shape, or form. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to second guess yourself, and you're just going to constant mind games with yourself. The coaches are going to give you constant mind games where you're just overthinking things. And so that part was tough, but knowing how hard I worked, knowing the support system I have, knowing what I'm capable of, the confidence I have in myself, not cockiness, the confidence I have in myself, I knew I was going to find a way to make it work. And then, but being a listener, not being like stubborn, not saying I know everything, like being able to be coached, being able to learn, and not just thinking you know it all. Because by the senior year of high school, like you're the best player, you know everything, like everything's catered to you, and you're kind of freshman year, kind of back on the bottom of the totem pole, no matter what you are. Especially being an All-American with these guys who look like there was no other All-Americans on my team at Villanova. Like none of them are high school Americans. So they're looking at me like, oh, this hot shot kid's coming in, like what, like they just whatever. But I knew like once I showed them how hard I worked, once I showed them that I wanted to be here, not just for me but for them, and it kind of made the transition out easier. And it was definitely difficult, but once you find your way, once you start getting in the realm of things definitely get easier.
really good advice. And obviously, Sandra, with this being such a tough transition for Jalen, tell us what it's like from the family's perspective too, right? Because you see your son graduate from high school. He's a state champion. He's a McDonald's All-American. Now he's flying out from Chicago to head out to Philly to go to school, where you're not going to have an opportunity to be with him and help mentor him through so many of those things that you described every single day. How did you adjust to that transition, and how specifically did you as a family help Jalen adjust? Was there anything special that y'all did?
Well, we didn't have the most typical adjustment, to be honest. I don't know if it's on social media somewhere, but we moved back to New Jersey. And that's where Jalen was born. And it wasn't because, he had a lot to do with it. Mind you, had he gone to another school, I probably would not have moved. But because we had came from there, we moved back. And so, and I told our daughter, who was a couple of years behind Jalen, I was like, most parents don't get this in your head. We're not moving to wherever near, within an hour of your college. That doesn't happen. But we moved back, quote unquote, back home. The transition, mind you, had we stayed in Illinois, I'm sure one of us, we had family friends that lived close, people that Jalen grew up with and parents. So we had a support system for him in place. And so we were thankful for that. But it was tough. I think he taught me a lot as a parent. When we moved, to make a long story short, I was the last one to move back east. And it was right when Jalen was getting ready to get into start playing. He already did the preseason camps or whatever. They were getting ready to start the college regular season. And I think I watched a scrimmage, and it was the first scrimmage I saw. And I think after the game, I said to him, "Oh, you did X or you did Y." And he was just like, "Not you too, Mom." Like, everybody was telling him that. Jalen's father's a coach, Jalen's high school coaches, whoever, everybody, the college coaches. So that was the first time that, I don't want to say that I did that, but he didn't need that from me. And I think as a parent, the best advice that I could give in that transition is to be there for your child as a person first, as a student, give them the support they need as an individual. And the sports, they're going to have their ebbs and flows, but that will come. And it's just very important that they have the stability and knowing that you are there to support them regardless of what they do on the court. And I think that was the best thing that I could have done for him, is just be Mom. I think we kind of nixed that in the bud, and then after that, we were good for 3 years.
Well, whatever you did, it worked. He obviously settled in nicely at Villanova. He won 2 national championships. He absolutely broke my heart as a Kansas Jayhawk fan twice. And I think that the good news is, Jalen, one of the things that you and I have in common, which are not very many, pretty few and far between, given the incredible amount of success you've had. I was a finance and communications major, and we saw that you not only majored in communications, but you graduated in 3 years. And you're obviously thriving both on the court and the classroom at this point in time. You would be Big East Player of the Year and Big East Scholar Athlete of the Year. You were National Player of the Year and an Academic All-American. So can you talk to us and talk to the Trey athletes about your college academics and how you picked your major, as well as why graduation was so important to you?
I think first I want to thank my mom, because my dad didn't give me my Spartans. My mom definitely did. So school came very easy to me because of her. And she always made sure I did my homework. She always made sure I did that at such a young age. And so by the time I got to high school, everything was the same. But obviously high school was a lot harder for me than I thought than college. So by the time I got to college, everything was, I don't want to say a cakewalk, but I was used to everything. There wasn't really, like, when I saw deadlines, I didn't really panic because I knew I could do things a certain amount of time. And but I know everyone's not like that, but obviously planning is a huge part of this college. Like, obviously there's everything. First of all, when you're there as an athlete, there are gonna be so many things that you have to do during the day that, like, you have a little bit of time. If you're not in study hall, you have a little bit of time to do your homework. And sometimes, well, most of the time, students or athletes don't do that. They end up doing something else with their free time. And so just making sure that you're always on the schedule with your schoolwork, and make sure you're not getting far behind, and make sure you're communicating with your professors. Like, I communicated with all my professors when we went on road games or where we weren't in town. I made sure I turned in things beforehand, or made sure I talked to my professors saying, is it possible I could turn it in the next class time? Like, there's always been constant communication with them. And so being able to kind of do that in the classroom at an early age, doing it in high school, prepared me for college. So it was just kind of simple stuff. Like, I know it's not the case for most people, but school is pretty easy.
Planning is nothing and plans are everything, or something to that effect, maybe backwards, maybe the other way. Sounds like you really had your plan in order, which is incredible. And I think that at this point, since we're getting ready to bump right up to 6:30, if it's okay with you, we're going to take some questions from the audience. So for our very first question, it comes from triathlete senior and University of New Orleans commit, Erica Richardson, and it's for Jalen. Erica asks, how much individual work was put in your freshman and sophomore year of college, and what was your motivation for
that? Individual work. So the motivation for me is definitely being the best player I can be and getting to the NBA. And that was always a motivation. But while in college, I was focused on winning more than anything. I wasn't really, like, long term is the NBA, but I really wanted to make sure that we were winning and winning and winning. And so the amount of individual work, I would say during the season, maybe around 2 hours a day, maybe at least an hour during the season. But in the off season, it'll be between 2 and 4. It's not just on the court with, like, basketball stuff. Like, it's obviously basketball, it may be running, and it may be, like, just lifting or doing other work, or like we did all summer, yoga. Like, it's just doing something to make sure your body is in a great condition for the season.
That's awesome. We actually just did a wellness and well-being workshop earlier this year with our triathletes, where we brought in a trained yoga practitioner to actually lead the kids in what was, for most of them, many of them, their first ever yoga session. So hopefully we're instilling some good habits there. It looks like next up we have someone else who's willing to not only hop on video, but ask you a question in real time. So I'll tap Joy, and it looks like our question coming up is from Jackie. Is that correct? Welcome, Jackie. How are you? We cannot see you or hear you just yet, but you have joined us. So if you can turn on your video and unmute. There we go.
Okay. Hi, guys.
There you go.
Hi, Mrs. Brunson. Jalen, thank you. You touched a lot of key points that I tell my daughter almost every day, so it's good that she got to hear it from you and not from her mom. Thank you. So, Mrs. Brunson, my question was for you. I just kind of wanted to know, she's going into her senior year, and whatever she has left as far as an AAU season, I wanted to know, how did you balance, knowing that this is like her last chance of being seen, how did you balance being the regular mom, like supportive mom, versus the push coaching mom? Like, that's where I'm having an issue, because I know what she can do and I know what she's capable of. And when she lacks, I just want to scream, but I know that she has a real coach and her dad. Then here comes the mom. So I kind of want to balance that. Like, I want to back off and just be mom. Like, give her a hug instead of be like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm having an issue with that.
That's a really good question. And to be honest with you, I found, as you know, moms, we know our children, right? So I would challenge Jalen more so mentally.
Okay.
And it started actually in the ninth grade. When my husband, he traveled a lot. He for work, and he even at one time left and coached in another state.
Okay.
And I tried to get the kids to take the focus off of him and put it on themselves.
Okay.
So ninth grade for him, and his sister she's 4.5 years younger. So, you know, I tried, but listen, they do what they want to do. But for him, I challenged him. I challenged him, whether it was in school and even also on the court, but it was more of a mental thing, kind of being their cheerleader at the same time. I'm not a fan, but I'm supportive. Like, I'm going to tell you how it is. And one example is I would also put little notes. He will tell you, I would put notes on the mirror. I would put notes like on the fridge, and in the bathroom.
Okay.
Like if a big game was coming up, I would put something that I knew that either he was concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even his dad would tell me, did you put that note, let him walk around with it, put it in his pocket, like just so he could think, but reiterate it. And I know that seems kind of like, it's very easy to do, especially with children and student athletes that are, I don't want to say targeted, but that are actually more elite than the others. There are things that are going to get challenged, you know, whether it's in the paper or TV. And you know what? It's good to have a challenge, because at some point when you're that good, I think you either kind of read your own press or you start to feel yourself. So now I'm going to bring you back down to earth and kind of give some of those little, whether it's a motivational, like a quote of the day or something like that, to make it really. So in Jalen's high school year, I think towards, Jalen, you can correct me, I don't know, I've been doing it for so long. I would send him a text about 3 hours before every game. Sometimes he would even say, you didn't send me my text. And I'd be like, I'm working, I'm driving, I don't know. But I would send him a text, and it would just be whatever, like I would think about it, just like him. I'm preparing for the game as a parent, just like he
would.
And I would send him a text giving him just some things to think about, and just, and I think that helped him. I did it all the way through college. We're talking about every game. And when he made it to the pros, he's like, look, Mom, there's 82 games. You can just say, I love you now. Like, it was like enough. So it was to tell you, I think that worked for me. I think it helped because it also gave him a balance to know that I was still mom, but yet I'm going to try and push you in the way that I know will nurture you and also get that result that we all want for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Jackie, thank you so much for that really helpful question. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right, so before we dive into our next question, I was asked to remind our audience that they can post their question both in the chat, and they don't have to join via video if for whatever reason they are intimidated by the Brunsons over here. And I believe our next question is just that. So Kalila Fambro wants to know a little bit more from you, Jalen. Can you speak more on managing your time in season? And we might have lost Jalen's video for just a second.
Back.
There he is. Back.
There we go. Managing my time in season. I think you're talking, we'll talk about high school and college. Well, now it's a little different, but college and high school, mostly in high school, my parents, they told me there were 3 options. And there you have your social life, you have your sports, basketball, or whatever you play, and you have your schoolwork. And then they said one has to go. You can only pick 2. And so, of course, I picked basketball and schoolwork. And it kind of obviously is a no-brainer. But that doesn't mean I didn't have any friends, didn't mean I didn't have fun. But like I just knew that schoolwork was first, basketball was right after it, and then anything else was after that. Like no matter what I did that day, I had to make sure my schoolwork was done and to make sure I got better somehow, some way in that day before I can do anything else with my life. If I go, like say I did something, there's like an event in the morning or at noon I went with my friends, and then like afterwards we're all hanging out, and I'm like antsy because I didn't get to do what I wanted to do and play basketball or work out in some way. So I always made sure I got my work done. And then how I managed that was making sure that the social and like the high school fun and the college fun, that will always be there. That will always be there. But you're only there for a certain amount of time, and you got to make the most of it. And you want to be the best you can be, you want to be able to accomplish the most you can. And so the fun is going to be there. It's going to be there even when you're 60, 70, whatever. It's going to be there. But this moment of being able to excel on and off the court is only there for a short amount of time. And to be able to lock in on that, like you'll know what is important to do at the moment and what's not important. So that's kind of how I managed it.
That's awesome. Again, you sound like one heck of a planner. So the good news is we're getting ready to go back to your mom. So you don't have to plan out your next response here. Next question for Mrs. Brunson is from Trey Parrott John Walsh, who says, Mom, what are some of the things that you did or what you would say on your regular notes?
Oh, I apologize.
Erica?
No, that would be your dad who just walked through the door. Sorry. Well, something that I wrote so many, but I kind of have the gist of how I started out. I always started out, one of my messages to him was that have faith, to have balance, faith, family, love, and basketball. That was always the premise of the quote or note that I would send him. But I always challenged him to use his strengths. Some of the things I would say is that, you're a leader on the floor. You're a leader. Your strengths are you control the pace of the game. Like I said, I'll say it again, parents know their child, you know what they're capable of. I wasn't out there wishing that he would score 100 points or anything like that. It was to do the tangibles, all the things that you work so hard on X, you work with this, do what you do. Don't let anyone change your focus. Those were the basis of my quotes or what I was looking at for quotes or inspirational texts to him. And I will say to parents that if you were to do or to do those type of things, you want to be completely honest with your child, while you're doing it. Like, to be honest with you, we always told Jalen that basketball will come. You put in the hard work. So our motto is always, the magic is in the work. You have to do the work. And yeah, you won't have a great game every day, every time you go out, but you know how hard you work. And in anything that you do, it was the work that mattered. And I hope it worked. I hope you actually took it to heart and knew how hard I actually worked on those messages to you.
And it was the worst when you forgot, so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Life, I worked, parenting, and you forget.
That's amazing. So kind of a fun experience here for this next question. We mentioned early on that in addition to our Trade Academy workshop, we also have trade mentors who are former college or pro athletes who actually come in and work with our kids for each of our individual points of programming. And we're really lucky that one of our mentors joined us today. So Raphael, our trade mentor, says, Jalen, what would you have done if you hadn't gone on to play pro basketball?
Coached I would have definitely. I can't see myself just unless I'm. Actually no. I can't see myself just kind of sitting behind a desk all day. I need to be active. I want to teach, be able to teach the game of basketball, teach something, just be able to be like doing something. I love being active. I love being able to just kind of implement my knowledge to others. And I just feel like I would definitely coach the game of basketball because I obviously love it and I've been around it. And it's something that I just fell in love with since I was born. I was born into it, and it's just in my genes. I can't really think of doing anything else in life. But I would definitely be coaching. With my degree, I have a communications degree, so I want to do sports broadcasting just to fall back on. But I definitely want to play for as long as I can. But coaching, and then we'll see from there. But I definitely want to coach.
Sounds like mentorship is also a big part of your platform as well, which means Rebecca LaJoy and I will be talking to you about getting involved as a train mentor at some point in time. Nice little plug. This next question is also for Jalen from Maya Thomas, Trey athlete. She says, Jalen, what advice would you give to somebody who hasn't gotten any offers going into their senior year?
I think the most important piece of advice I could give you is to do not lose confidence. One thing I always talk to myself, even during games, sometimes I say to myself, I work way too hard not to be confident in myself. So don't think because there's somebody's always watching, first of all. My dad taught me that. There's somebody's always watching. And being able to focus on how hard you work every day. It shouldn't really matter, honestly, who's watching. So you're going to go out there and play as hard as you can every time you step on the field or court. But don't get discouraged and stay committed to your craft and stay committed to working hard and doing everything that you can control. Focus on what you can control. And like my mom said, things will eventually turn for you.
Could I also add to that, to his response?
Please.
You'd be surprised, because I've been around a lot of coaches. You would think a coach is in the stands coming for one player, and next thing you know, they see someone they hadn't heard about. Or if another coach is recruiting and they are interested, but they may not have the scholarship or it may not have the place for you, but it's a brotherhood with them too. It's a fraternity. They talk to each other and they'll say, look, you got to go look at this kid. So when he said like somebody's always watching, that is definitely true. And just work as hard as you can, regardless of who's in the stands, because you never know when that offer will come. I got an offer late in my, I didn't commit to school until April, and I didn't get, I wasn't one of those, signing day type of kids or something like that, but I had quite a few offers like in late winter. So it's out there, and somebody will definitely. One thing Jalen's dad would always say is that if you're good, they'll find you. They'll find you anywhere. So and good meaning your demeanor on the court, not necessarily scoring points, but how well you play when your game is not at its best, or how well you play when your team is down by 20, your body language and things like that. So just keep those things in mind, because while not everybody can be the top scorer, not everybody can be, an All-American, but there are other people that are role players that can bring so much to the game. And coaches look for players that actually will work well with each other. So I'm sure a scholarship will come.
Great advice from a mom who's lived it. So we're really lucky that one of our triathletes is going to be joining us on video now. Suni Davis, LaJoy, if you can tap her, join and ask her question.
Okay, so my question, it could go for both of y'all since I'm both kind of like played like at a higher level. But my question was just like, what's some advice like to get noticed or like to just make yourself seem like that kind of like recruitment type player?
Mom?
Oh, I think it's all about character and how you conduct yourself on and off the court. And what I've noticed about college coaches in today's game, they look for, let's be honest, we see all of these top recruits that everybody talks about, but I would assume like 90% of the athletes that are in college are not, McDonald's 20, the top 12 in their class or top 100. So the coaches, they're looking for good attitudes. They're looking for the cohesiveness, leadership. They're looking for also, not to mention, nobody really talks about it as much as it, but also a good student. It's just, they're looking for the full package, and it's rare that people administer all of those things, but your body language on the court can show so much more, your mentality and those things, and what type of teammate you are and how you respond to criticism. So I can suggest to you that when you are, and I can speak from personal experience, I was not ranked. I don't know what that was. I probably didn't even have it back in my day. So, but I worked hard. I worked extremely hard at what I did well. I knew what I could do, and I focused on that. And so I think that, instead of trying to be something you're not, if you just work at what you're good at and be willing to work even harder at the things that you are coming into your own with, they can see that potential. And it's all about potential. And once you show that, coaches will, find diamonds in the rough. I truly believe that, because I think I was one. And you just have to do what you do, be honest with yourself, and work extremely hard in the classroom. And it sounds cliche, but it really will pay off.
And also to add on that, how do you affect the team by not just scoring or whatever? Like, how do you affect winning? Are you going to do the dirty work? Are you going to do the little things that may not come up on the stat sheet? A lot of coaches literally will love that. Like, I know Coach Wright, that like someone could have 100 points in the game. If you took like 2 charges, Coach Wright is going to go nuts. He'll whatever. And coaches love that. So if you do like the little things, if you a good teammate, most importantly, coaches really do like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks so much, Cindy. So our next question comes from a Trey athlete mom, Lynn McKinney. I think she's going to be joining us here on video as well.
Hello, can you all?
Lynn, welcome.
Hi. So it's a two-part question. Jalen, you've accomplished so much in your career, but would you mind sharing with us a moment of adversity? Oh, sorry. Would you mind sharing with us a moment of adversity that you've had and how you overcame that? And then Mrs. Brunson, from your perspective, what was that like, or how did you handle watching him go through that adversity and not just jump in and handle it?
Moment of adversity. I think honestly, going to school, going to college, I was like it was said, I was obviously highly recruited and things like that, and so I was never really tested, and so going to college and not really knowing how it was going to go, like from the starting point, being able to accept the role in a team instead of being the guy, which I've been for most of my life at that point, was difficult. It was things that my whole family was like, whoa, this is different. Like, we're not used to this. And even like at some times, my mom, she was my best friend. She was fine. My dad was like, yo, like, is this what you want to do? Like he was a little bit more antsy on that aspect. So he was always just like, we're not comfortable in this situation. So not like having the ball in my hands the entire game, not being like the main focal point in the offense or on the team was tough. And so, like I said, I second guessed myself. I doubted myself, and I was like, well, why? If coach brought me in here to like fill in the piece that the team needed, like, why am I not like where is like the more responsibility? And so, but you got to grow into that. And so I kind of learned that, and I kind of had to grow up by myself. I didn't really have my parents right there holding my hand through the whole process. I kind of think, if this is what's best for the team, like, this is what I need to do. And then it luckily turned out to help us win a national championship. And being able to kind of grow in that area, I think definitely helped me get to the NBA, because there's obviously not a lot of superstars in the NBA. There are more role players than there are superstars. And so I think the Mavericks organization saw that I did that. Like, I was able to be a superstar by my junior year and do all that stuff. At the same time, I'm able to accept the role and do what the team needs and fill in the different parts the team may need at that time. And so being that diverse definitely helps moving forward. But having that adversity at the time, it was awful. But I got through it, and it was something that I had to look at myself and say, if this is what I want to do, if this is where I want to be, I got to make the adjustments myself. So I learned that at Nova.
Yeah, there was a time where Jalen hit a wall in college, I think physically and mentally. And I think even in high school, when your child gets to high school, you see like playing basketball, the game is much faster. You're like, oh my goodness, these kids are bigger. It's the same thing when they get to college. It's like they're bigger and the game is much faster. And it was like some games he would be old Jalen, and then some games it's just like, well, who is he? Or those are not the things that he would do. And while he'll talk about his dad, he was very intense. And, coaches have their own opinions. Jalen's been coached by his dad off the floor. He's never coached him in a game. Never done that. He's just taught him the game of basketball. To his credit, regardless of what happened in the game, they would always have a time where they would talk about and just analyze and just kind of refocus. Maybe a 5-minute, 10-minute chat. And but when Jalen hit that wall, it was kind of like, is this the right program for him? Like you guess it, and you see what he's going through, and we sit there. What I said to my husband, what I noticed, I said, well, if he bought in, we have to trust him. And it seems as though he bought in. He just wasn't used to the role that he was put in. He embraced it, and he found ways to excel. And I think all we could do is, as parents, just be encouraging. One, like I said, I'm not a fan. I'm your mom, you know what I mean? So I'm going to try and be as honest as I can, but at the same time, I'm going to be supportive, because as parents, I think while they are all about their game of basketball and so forth, it's really about the end game when they get to college. It's like, what is your end game? Yeah, okay, this is a game you're playing, God forbid you want your health and all that stuff, but the goal is to graduate. And that's what we knew that, Jalen, you're going to graduate. I don't care how you do it, you're graduating. And that was the goal. Basketball will come if that's something that you want to do. And that was the primary focus. He had to do the stuff on the court, and he had to figure it out. It was not easy. I know some people think, some of our friends are like, oh, what a great career. It was hard. It was hard. And he was mentally tough, I got to tell you. And I encourage you as a mom to to help support them in that aspect. It's just saying that they can take it, like, you know, like if they're going to come at you, whether it's your coach. I didn't like my coach in college. My freshman year, I called my mom thinking, can you pay for school? I was like, this is not who I thought this person was. And I mean, I love her. She was nice, but that's not what I thought I was getting myself into. And I called my mom saying, can you rub two nickels together? Because I don't think I'm going to play. And I don't even know what her reaction is, but that didn't work. I stuck with it. So just be prepared for that, and go visit if you have to, you know, or something like that. And just those little notes, send a package. I would mail him something just to encourage him that you just keep going.
You never mailed me anything. You drived up to give me something.
Yeah, that is true. I did mail you. Now I mail you stuff. Now I mail you stuff, little notes. I still do it. And because I think something tangible, and this might sound corny. Like I said, I challenge Jalen a lot, but we talk like every year before the season started, right in school. Tell me what your goals are academically. Let's think about them. And he would literally print them out and post them up in his room. I mean, we have years of that. And even to now, I said, what's your goal in professional sports? What are your goals? And that way he had something to visualize, to like really think about it. And it's like, again, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. What do you think something that you can actually obtain? He was like, no C's. Okay, I can live with that, no C's, right? And things like that. And believe it or not, I think those are the little things as parents, if we do, to just remind them that, you know, while the sport is there, it's always going to be there, but there is somebody going to be better than you. You know, somebody's going to be coming after your job, whatever, but you have to focus on everything, the whole picture, the end game.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ben, thank you so much for your question and for joining us. And with that, I think that puts a perfect period on our Q&A for today. So I'm going to pass it back to LaJoy to kind of wrap. But on behalf of the Trey athletes and parents in the audience, and on behalf of our organization, just wanted to say and reiterate to both of you, thank you so much for joining us and for passing on so many bits of information and pieces of little, advice and thoughtfulness that you continue to reiterate throughout both of your lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you again to both of you. Definitely some great tips from both of you. Sandra, I definitely was taking some notes on some things. I have a long time to go before my little person is, where you guys are. But
it goes fast. It goes fast.
It does go fast. It does go fast. But just seeing the relationship that you guys have, I can see Jalen's definitely a mama's boy, and I can definitely relate to that because I have a mama's boy at home here too. So thank you to both of you on behalf of Trey, as Brian said, and to everybody who was an attendee. Thank you guys so much. We had so many amazing questions that we couldn't even get to all of them, unfortunately. But thank you all for sending in those great questions, and for those of you who came on camera and interacted, thank you for that. I'm gonna encourage you guys to follow us on social media at Trey Athletes. Also follow Jalen because he's on social media too at Jalen Brunson 1 because he's number 1. Sandra, are you on social media as well? Do you want to get some followers?
I am on social media. True to my roots, Yankee _first. I'm a New Yorker, so
I hear the accent.
Yeah. So, but you could probably, if you follow Jalen, you'll see that I post at him and I send him messages and inspirational things. I
never answered, but yeah.
So thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. We had the numbers kept fluctuating. People kept joining in, and we're just so happy that we had some people who came in and joined us. Jalen, you gave some excellent advice to our athletes, and we are so thankful that you took the time out of your schedule to join us. And you too, Sandra, having the parental perspective on this is so important because as parents, we want the best for our kids, and seeing someone who's done that and who's walked the steps and who's still doing that, hearing how you manage that was just delightful. So I want to thank both of you guys. Everybody who joined us, you're free to go. We are only 2 minutes over, so we're kind of punctual. Thank you all for your time, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.